Growing up, I was always interested in the mental game. After years of study, I developed the BasketballBrain program. My life is devoted to helping others achieve their greatness. I hope you'll like, subscribe, and if you take a chance with the BasketballBrain program, I promise you your game's going to reach levels that you never thought possible.
What's up, BasketballBrain fans and members going to watch KD drop 49 against the Magic. And the great thing about KD's game is even though he's 7 feet tall, when you watch him, you don't really notice his height because he moves so much like a smaller guy. You know, when I watch Giannis and some of these guys, they look really tall to me. It looks like they're playing on an 8-foot hoop. I think it's I don't really like it personally. I think the guys in the NBA are actually getting too tall. It's a little bit not fun because they don't have the great athletic ability. They don't have the 45-inch verts. They don't float through the air when they jump. They're like, it looks like they're 20 inches off the ground, which to me isn't fun to watch. KD doesn't jump that high, but he's so smooth. He's so nimble. He really plays like a smaller guy. Great shot by Clay there, too. I'm not saying anything about their skill level, these tall guys. I mean, they all have tremendous skill. You could make a case that the skill level in the NBA just keeps going higher and higher. And I guess, this was inevitable. As big guys, big guys hate playing in the post. You guys have played with big guys. They wish they were out there doing what the guards do. They don't like posting up. There's very few guys that just post up anymore. Everybody wants to shoot the three, wants to run like KD. I mean, what do you do with somebody like that? I remember what Kobe said about KD. They asked him when he was with OKC, what's your opinion of Durant? And Kobe said, he's a 7-foot me. And I thought, that's scary to think about, That's really scary to think about. And it's kind of true. KD, everybody talks about his thin skin. I think it's one of these things where he just has an attitude of, I'm a person, you're a person, and if you're going to talk trash about me, then I'm going to respond to you. I don't care if you're way below me on the socioeconomic scale. I don't care if you're some rando on Twitter. I'm going to let you know about it. So there are certain guys that to maintain their competitive edge, they just have to keep doing this has always worked for Durant, to be somebody who has rabbit ears, who hears everything. It helps him in some way. If he was playing bad because of it, now I know he had a bad stretch there after the Draymond dust up. Maybe that had something to do with Draymond, but players have bad streaks all the time. KD seems to be able to function in that environment. I would not recommend it for most people. Very rare. He's the exception to the rule. What I always say, if you see an exception to the rule, assume you're not that exception. So KD's one of these guys who can have rabbit ears, have bunny, in baseball, they say you have rabbit ears, you hear everything. When they're going, hey, batter, swing. The guys who get that in their head, it messes them up. KD likes hearing that. Again, very rare for somebody to be able to do that. I've noticed post players, guys who can go to the post and just dunk like that, they can talk a lot of trash because you're not going to miss your dunks. But when you're a shooter and you engage in trash talk with the fans, when you're a shooter and you engage in trash talk with somebody on Twitter, there's a lot more that can go wrong from 22 feet away trying to make it. You can get cold from three-point range. It's hard to get cold when you're shooting little baby hooks and dunks. You notice most guys who come out and guarantee victories aren't the shooters, aren't the scorers, because you don't want to mess with the ecosystem you have going on. That was a great shot. You don't want to mess with that ecosystem in your mind. It's fragile. You don't want doubt in there. You don't want excess pressure on yourself. So great players will put pressure on themselves, but they don't like to make it public. One of the reasons we watch sports, KD gets a roll there really quickly, that the more you shoot, the more you're going to get those rolls. The harder you work, the luckier you'll be. It's not a coincidence that most of the rolls we see in the NBA, when guys get that roll off the rim, they're the better players because the better players are putting in more reps. Their ball has better rotation, of course, and they're also, the more work you put in, the universe tends to help you out a little bit. The basketball gods tend to bestow you with, there's another roll, more lucky breaks. Just a side note. But in basketball, I was saying, we like the stories of the game, in fighting, in MMA, in boxing. Not many people watch heavyweight matches anymore. I mean, people do, but it's not as popular as it once was because there's no compelling story there. Well, you need to be careful that you don't start creating a story that you have to live up to in the eyes of the public. That's dangerous. You see guys who, the media has built them up so much, and the players have started to believe in that story, in that narrative. And then they try to live up to that, and they get out of their game. It's even worse if you're not just listening to the media, you're listening to social media. Social media means society's talking to you. You're not just listening to one or two journalists. You're actually listening, again, to some random person on Twitter, and now you got to live up to that. You got to prove them wrong. And in movies and things like that, you see, oh, the athletes, he's just going to prove them wrong. So many bad games happen. So many athletes have bad games because they're trying to prove somebody wrong. You think that's like the motivation helps you. It typically backfires. It backfires all the time. So you have to be really, really careful that you don't put yourself in a position where you're trying to shut people up all the time. Now, in your own head, maybe you do that. But we always talk about it's in the background. You still need to come out, play the team game. You can't have a preset agenda. You still have to let the game come to you. And then when there's an opportunity to make a point, you do it. But you're already deeply in the rhythm of the game. It's very, very hard. It can happen, but it's very hard to come out and start proving your point from tip-off. What an amazing shot. It's very hard to come out and start proving your point immediately from the jump ball. You can't come into a game and have a preset agenda because every game has its own unique rhythm. You need to get into that rhythm. You need to make sure that you're feeling comfortable in the game. And then as you get going, then you can start to have a little bit more yang. Yin at the beginning, right? If you know in Taoism, the yin and yang, yin is passive. It's not that you're not attacking, but you're letting the game come to you. Like we say, let it happen on offense, make it happen on defense. And then in the fourth quarter, if you're down, the last 5 minutes, last 2 minutes, you can start to do a little bit more make it happen on offense. And I'm sure you've done this. In a pickup game, your team's down, and you got to get going, so you start to make it happen. You see Clay kind of making it happen there, as a matter of fact. Great players do that. It's let it happen, and then in overtime and at the end of the game, you start to make it happen a little bit. And you have to develop an intuition for that. Now listen, there are some games, maybe you come out and you're in a slightly more make it happen state. You need to go out there and be aggressive from the start. There are games like that. There's no ironclad rules here, but there are rules that apply probably 90% of the time. And I'd say in 90% of your games, maybe 95% of your games, you want to come out in that yin mode. Great shot. I love that swish. That was a great swish. I'm a connoisseur of swishes. Have you noticed not every swish is the same type of swish? There's different types of swishes. I like that swish there because the ball comes in at different angles. You guys should really practice that Clay shot right there. Coming from the left and the right, hard off a screen, catch, turn, and shoot. Really important. Didn't get the roll there, but it's also important. Those are called Kobe assists. You get those those soft misses. You get those soft misses, and your big guys can put it right back in. That's called a Kobe assist. When you miss a little bit and it still goes to your teammate. I want to make one more point here while we're finishing this up, that KD on a lot of his three-point shots and Clay really hold their follow-through. You can see there, his arm comes down a little bit, but it's fully extended and he's not pulling it back. I saw a video on YouTube the other day. It said follow-throughs are overrated. That's not true, especially if you're a young player. As you become more advanced, you can start to do that pull your arm back like Clay did right there. But for the most part, you want to really hold the follow-through as much as possible. So silky smooth. That was a little bit Kobe, that slithering there. I really recommend that you hold your follow-through as much as... Whoa, that was nice. Really hold your follow-through as much as possible. These guys have put in so many shots. Even there, that's a held follow-through, even though it comes down a little bit earlier than you'd like. See how he's holding his follow-through there on his free throws? As you get more advanced, you can start to pull back a little bit on those On certain shots, I should say. You know, Curry, when he shoots and his arms just kind of full jump back in. But listen, anybody who's telling you to do that, I've seen coaches at camps now talk about this, you know, and holding your follow through is not important. Here's the thing, they can't be that good of shooters if they're recommending that you don't worry about it, because any shooter will tell you, any great shooter, is when you pull your arms back like that, it happens spontaneously. You've been taught to hold your follow through and you're trying to hold your follow through, but really, if you're a great shooter, you know that when your arms go back like that, it's just a feeling and it happens spontaneously. It's not planned. Anyways, that was my final point. Hold your follow through as much as possible. When you don't hold it, you'll notice your shooting percentage probably goes down a little bit, especially if you're a young player and you're just starting to learn. This is basketballbrain.com. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Talk to you soon.